Dr. Marsee, we want to ask you a few questions about a rumor that we heard, the fact that there's not going to be a summer session this year.
Oh my goodness, a rumor. All right, well, let's unravel the rumor. Let's try to understand why those rumors may occur. First of all, we don't know about summer, not whether or not we're going to have summer, but we don't know about summer because we don't begin building our schedule and releasing it until March. So on the best of terms, we wouldn't know how many sections, what sections, or what classes we'd be offering. Now that's today in November for this summer. But let's talk about some of the issues, some of the hazards, some of the things that will help us as we decide what our summer is going to look like. As you may or may not know, front page of the Times Standard on, I believe it was Sunday this last week, indicated that the budget that the state is operating under is imploding. It was built on a series of false premises. And so all the information we've received in the last 3 or 4 weeks is not going to probably hold up. We know, for instance, that over $5 billion of stimulus, federal stimulus money that the budget, this current budget was based on, is not going to happen. We also know that for the community colleges, the $126 million that it is supposed to receive this year for growth funding is based on funds being available next year to pay for it. In other words, you do the activity this fiscal year and we'll pay you next fiscal year. And what we're discovering now is that next fiscal year probably is not going to be any better than this fiscal year, which means the premise that there'll be additional funds next year to pay for this year are also false. So that's why Governor Schwarzenegger brought the legislature back to start working on the budget before the new governor has arrived, is the recognition that the budget we're operating under is a fictitious budget. It's imploding. And therefore any assumptions we make now, whether it be for summer, this summer, or even for next year, are going to be impossible because we just don't know what the funding looks like. However, in preparation for the presentation of the budget to our board in December, which is very late, we're 6 months into this fiscal year, and we finally are presenting a budget because we finally got the information that at least gives us a hint. We're going to put monies aside so that if we do not have a cut, which we may or may not have in January, February, if we do not have a cut, we will have funds to set up or to fund the summer school. So assuming no cut, we certainly have the funds. If there is a substantial fund cut, then we're going to have to take a look at issues like personnel, costs that are ongoing expenses to the organization in addition to classes like the library, like tutors, like advisors, counselors, like staff to register students. Those are also part of the budget scenario in addition to just offering classes, and we'll have to do a balancing act to make certain that we can offer classes this summer. And then finally, our summer falls in between over 2 fiscal years. The first 6 weeks of the summer are paid for out of this year's budget. The last 8 weeks, approximately 8 weeks, are paid out of next year's budget. So if we do receive a cut this year, then we certainly will be looking at using next year's budget to offer classes this summer as well. So the long and short of your answer, it is a rumor. And that's all it can be right now. I wish I could say emphatically it's not or it is going to happen. We don't know. But we wouldn't know typically until March when our schedule is developed. This is November. We won't know for certain until we know what the funding scenario is, and that won't be until January or February. But we do believe that this is a 12-month organization. We do believe, as we have done every other summer, that our role is to provide summer school, and it would be my expectation that that role will be filled again this summer. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So now, on the other side of this balancing act that you notice, is there a way or anything that we can do about the lack of funds that we have besides just cutting people's budgets?
Well, when you say we, I'm assuming you mean students, or are you meaning administration and faculty?
I think I mean the school participation as a whole.
Well, I think it's very important that the students let their local representatives, their assemblymen and women, and their senators know that the community college education is critical to the recovery of California. And so in all respects, I think a letter and or phone call, or those who have an opportunity to talk directly to our legislators, need to keep saying that message. The CSUs and the UCs have all increased their tuition, the CSUs by 15%. They've all capped their enrollment, which means students are coming to the community colleges. And so if that is the direction the state is taking, then they certainly should understand that the students that are not getting into CSU, that are not getting into UC, that cannot afford to go to private universities, need to have classes available for them to be able to continue on with their education. So the messaging needs to be, I believe, from the students that this is important, an important funding priority, and that we hope that you will not lose sight. From our perspective, we're putting monies aside. We're trying to anticipate that if there is a cut, we won't lose positions, we won't lose classes. But since we don't know what the financial situation is, we don't know if we put enough aside, we don't know if there isn't a cut, what next year looks like. And that balancing act isn't one that we can fix with a great strategy. We can do with a number of strategies because there are various scenarios, but none of the scenarios go live until we know what the real funding situation is. And we really won't know that probably until February or March of this spring.
So a lot of students have been practicing social activism and creating a lot of movements. For example, I heard about this whole scene just last night by somebody who had actually created a Facebook to support the summer session. Do you think that there's anything that we can do to promote this?
Well, I'm hoping that the students understand that this is not something that the administration or the faculty have created. That we're really as much a victim in this process as are the students, in that we really have no control over what the funding is going to be, certainly not at CR. So if there is an activism, let's not point it at the innocents and make the innocents the victims in the process. And to that I mean the faculty, and to that I mean the administration, and to that I mean the trustees. We're trying to administer, we're trying to schedule an incredibly difficult, financially difficult situation over which we have no control. But if activism means pointing the arrow or the spear towards the decision makers, then by all means I think that communication needs to happen. I think that activism needs to occur, and I think it needs to be directed to Sacramento, the place where they have to be reminded that this is our students' only opportunity, with doors shutting at CSUs and UCs in this state, that the community colleges is the only avenue available. And so that's my caution. Don't beat up the players who are trying to keep it going and fix it when it's breaking down at Sacramento. Point that energy in the direction of the decision makers, which are in Sacramento.